The Saints make the trip to Atlanta to close out the 2025 regular season with a familiar foe and a familiar challenge. Both teams enter with win streaks on the line and an emphasis on carrying positive momentum into the offseason. For the Saints, it's about starting fast, playing with discipline, and matching physicality for all 4 quarters against a division opponent that never needs extra motivation. It's 60 minutes of NFC South football with pride, momentum, and bragging rights all on the line. Welcome to Saints Game Day live on NewOrleansSaints.com. I'm Brooke Kirchhofer alongside the former Saints linebacker and Super Bowl champ Scott Shanley. What an opportunity for the Saints today to finish out the regular season on a high note. They're 6-10. They've won their last 4. If they win 5 straight, it's the first time since the 2020 season. Meanwhile, the Falcons head into this one on a 3-game win streak. And a win for the Saints could do a couple of things. 1, ride momentum into the offseason. 2, depending on how Tyler Shucks performs today, he could really close the gap for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And of course, 3, shake up the NFC South final standings. What do you want to see from the Saints today?
Well, I think first, for me, I'm excited that this is Coach Moore's initiation into the rivalry between the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints. I'm sure Cam Jordan's let him know all about it, what it's going to be like. So there's nothing like this game to end the season. You want to end the season strong and springboard your way into 2026. But it's crazy. These are 2 of the hottest teams in the NFC South, playing some of the best football. And yesterday's games you're watching, one of these 2 teams, the Bucks and the Panthers, are going to represent the NFC South. So it's crazy, but these 2 teams are the 2 hottest teams in the NFC South. Both very talented, well-coached teams right now. And, the Falcons coming off a big win over the Rams, I think puts you on notice a little bit that you need to take them seriously.
And now this game holds the cards for the NFC South champ. As we know, the Bucks beat the Panthers yesterday, and now the Bucks are having to sit at home and cheer on the Saints, which is kind of funny to think about Baker Mayfield having to root on a team he is clearly not liked this season.
Yeah.
Obviously, if the Saints want to get a win to end the regular season, but if you're a Saints fan, regardless of what happens, who do you not want to see move on if you were able to get the opportunity?
Man, I've gone back and forth on this a lot, and I think I've come to the fact that the Panthers haven't had any success for a long time. I want to beat the Falcons first and foremost. That's number one. But the Buccaneers fans are getting a little arrogant. I think because they had Brady, they won a Super Bowl. They're being a little too loud. It's just to me, it's just a shame thinking that you have to play a game that somebody else benefits from, especially when you're playing better football than both those teams.
Absolutely. Okay, let's go ahead and rewind to Week 12. Falcons at Saints. The Saints fall 24-10, but Tyler Shuck threw for 243 yards in that game. No touchdowns. He did throw 1 interception, but based on how he's progressed in the pocket since then, where's your confidence level at in the passing game, especially going up against an Xavier Watts and Jesse Bates, who both combined for 8 interceptions?
Yeah, those are 2 of the better safeties in the league. Watts was a high pick out of Notre Dame, playing really good football, taking the football away. Bates has always been that middle of the field, roaming free safety that if you don't manipulate him with your eyes and keep him honest, he's one of the better ball hawks in the league. So I think that's an important thing for Tyler today is know that he's going against 2 of the better safeties and probably the best tandem of safeties in the NFL right now, playing really good football. And, just keeping them honest with your eyes, I think, is a big part of it. And then, obviously, you want the offensive line to keep Tyler clean because it all starts with having some pass protection before those eyes even matter.
A big part of how well the Saints have been moving the ball down the field, unfortunately, just got removed with Chris Olave being ruled out against the Falcons. He's been the number 1 target in the last 3 games. So who do you think Shuck is going to lean on now in these tough down and distances?
Yeah, the natural guy for me is Juwan Johnson. Juwan and Tyler really developed a good rapport in the last couple weeks. Same with Chris. Chris and Tyler really developed a nice chemistry. Obviously, it hurts to not have Chris in there, but Chris battled through the back injury, played really good football. I think Juwan in the matchups against the Atlanta Falcons linebacker core, I think you're going to see Kellen move him around, tight end position, flexed out a little bit, take advantage of Juwan's skill set versus the Atlanta Falcons defense. So for me, I think the natural selection of Juwan Johnson have a huge day today.
Absolutely. We talked about the secondary that the Saints will face today, but it's that pass rush that teams highlight when they have to prepare for the Atlanta Falcons. What do you expect to see from that matchup for the Saints offensive tackles against that pressure?
Yeah, well, there's a reason you draft tackles in the first round. The Saints have invested a lot of capital. Fuaga's playing really good football right now. Banks has been really good as a 9th overall pick. So you have a lot of hope going in future years that you have 2 cornerstones to protect your franchise quarterback in Tyler. But it all starts with protecting. And you look at the Falcons defense, they beat the Rams because of their pass rush. Their pass rush got after Stafford, didn't give him much time to throw. Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee was a first-round draft pick. They actually gave up next year's first-round pick to move up to get him to the Rams. So they're without a first-round pick. They invested a lot in him. He's almost double-digit sacks. And then Floyd, who's been a better in this league. He's been all over the place, but he's been productive, and he'll come in nickel situations and NASCAR package situations. So you have to be aware of this Atlanta Falcons pass rush.
Well, they're second in the league in sacks for a reason. And let's flip things to the Saints defense. How do they try and slow down running back Bijan Robinson, who, as Cam Jordan has said, is having an MVP season?
Well, this kid's outstanding. You go around the league, I think most people would put him, it's the McCaffrey, it's the Jahmyr Gibbs, and it's Bijan Robinson. Those three, however you want to order them. But I think what makes him so tough to defend is he's got home run speed, and he can run inside the tackles. Not really how they utilize him as much, but you bring 8 guys down the box. Hey, let's get a safety down and control the running game and control Bijan Robinson. Then when you bring guys in the box, that means you're short on the outside, and he can catch the ball in the passing game. That's what makes him so dynamic, is his ability to make one guy miss in space, and then it's a home run touchdown. And I think it's about getting 11 hats to the ball, taking proper angles, and know that not one guy is usually going to tackle him. He's as explosive of a player as there is in this league.
And he's not the only guy you have to worry about in the run game. Tyler Algier has been able to catch teams by surprise when they have just a heavy emphasis on focusing on Robinson. How do the Saints now take on that two-headed monster?
Yeah, unfortunately, Tyler Algier is a really good player, but unfortunately he backs up one of the better, most explosive players in the league in Robinson, so he's always kind of the forgotten guy. But he is that guy inside the 10-yard line where he steals a lot of the fantasy owners' Bijan Robinson touchdowns because he comes in inside the 10 and 5-yard line, and he's kind of that hammerhead. He's going to get 3, 4, 5 yards a pop, but if you forget about him and his change of pace that he brings to this Atlanta offense, he'll wear you down. And I think you've seen over the years a couple of times teams kind of forget about him because I can exhale, the stud running back right in, but he'll make you pay if you don't stay in your gaps.
Well, we love what we have seen from Chase Young. He's obviously coming off a fumble recovered for a touchdown. How have you seen his game progress since he's come back from injury, and what are you expecting to see in that matchup between the longtime left tackle and Jake Matthews and Young?
I think Jake Matthews may need a little bit of help because this Chase Young that you're seeing this year is not the Chase Young you saw last year in the previous years. I think Chase has done a really good job. He's slimmed down. He's made his way into this Staley defense as a stand-up rush end instead of a defensive end with his hand down the dirt, like he's been since college. So I think you look at he's affecting the quarterback. He's putting pressure in the quarterback's face. Maybe not the sack numbers that Myles Garrett and some of these other guys have, but he's affecting the game in the same way. I think Chase has been one of the best offseason signings we've had in a long time, making him a cornerstone of this defense, learning under Cam Jordan. You kind of see that passing of the torch a little bit, but Chase has been outstanding, and he's really affected offenses in their game plan.
And collectively, the Saints defense has been getting to the quarterback as of late, 12 sacks in the last 2 games, but no one loves tackling Atlanta quarterbacks more than Cam Jordan. What kind of pressure is he going to put on Kirk Cousins today?
Cam's been outstanding. Cam, you look at Cam, he starts the season off with a sack against Arizona. When everybody thinks Father Time is coming to Cam Jordan, he goes out there. Yeah, it never does, and he goes out there and just produces. So you look at multiple double-digit sack games this year. So I think Cam, that just trio of Cam, Granderson, and Chase Young has been outstanding in Coach Staley's defense. And a big reason why this defense kind of turned the corner halfway through the season is because of those 3 guys and their ability to get after the quarterback and help their secondary.
You wonder, speaking of the secondary, if Cousins is going to be seeing ghosts today with Justin Reed, who took one back to the house last time they took each other on here in New Orleans. Justin Reed with a huge pick 6. What kind of game can he have against the Falcons when he is clicking on all cylinders?
Well, I think the one thing when you look at we just talked about the pass rush, the one thing that's going to help Justin and this secondary is A-gap pressure, getting pressure in Cousins' face. Cousins has been a good player a long time in this league, but he's really struggled when you get into his lap and you force him back. When he retreats, that's when he gives you those lob balls. And you could see some takeaways. Justin will be a huge part of that because late throws over the middle with pressure in your face is usually a bad recipe. He's got weapons, there's no doubt. He has weapons to throw through with Kyle Pitts and Drake London, but I think Justin will get a ball thrown to him here or there throughout the game today.
It's going to be a fun one to watch, and keep an eye on Justin Reed out there. Before we get to today's inactives, here's Aaron Summers going one-on-one with head coach Kellen Moore.
Coach, what does it say about Tyler Shuck's performance in just 8 starts that he is now the favorite to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, Tyler's taking advantage of his opportunities. He's done a really good job of just getting better each and every week, and you can see us just taking the steps necessary to play better football.
With wide receiver Chris Olave not being able to go this week, great news that he's doing okay, but how does that affect the offense?
Next man up. Next man gets an opportunity to play, and so obviously there's some excitement from that standpoint, and Chris obviously got to navigate some stuff from a medical perspective, but he's in great hands.
What have you seen in the way that Shuck's been able to manage the game regardless of who's in and out?
Yeah, I think he just does a really good job of having a plan, trusting his process, and letting it rip. And so, we got a lot of guys that have been moving around in different roles throughout the year, but those guys are prepared, ready, and Tyler's trusting them.
Speaking of somebody who's going to be coming back in, Cesar Ruiz back at practice here. How does having him back help going up against a Falcons front that has 53 sacks on the season?
Yeah, they've done a great job of getting after the quarterback, and so a lot of that comes down to situational football. You got to put yourself in favorable situations. Cesar's availability will be an added benefit. Obviously, he's played a lot of football, and so we're excited to see him back out there.
One area that was not the best for the Saints against the Falcons the first time around was the red zone. They're 0-3. Now the Saints have been doing a lot better in that regard. What do you need to focus in on to make sure that production stays the same?
Yeah, I think execution football, and we got to finish some drives with some touchdowns, whether it be third downs or fourth downs. There's going to be critical downs, and we got to finish.
How important is it to get Audric Estime going in this one?
Yeah, he was a spark for us last week. In the second half, he ran really physical and created some big-time plays for us, and so certainly we want to continue that trend.
Bijan Robinson had 195 yards his last game out. What is the main thing that you have to focus in on to make sure it doesn't happen here against us?
It's going to take all 11. Everyone can do it. There can be a lot of good that goes on a play. One guy's misaligned or misses a tackle, and it turns into explosive, and we've seen that time and time again. So it's going to take everyone.
In that first game against the Falcons, we saw Kirk Cousins for the first time. What do you have to be aware of in his game?
Yeah, he's going to understand the defense. He's going to do a great job making really good decisions. He's going to kind of control that offense at a really high level, and so certainly they play some really good football down the stretch with Kirk.
For us defensively, what's been clicking?
Team defense playing really well together, stopping the run first and foremost, and then allowing yourself to get into these passing situations and rushing the passer.
All right, how important is it? How much does it matter to win the last game of the season?
Yeah, we want to finish this thing off the right way, and so we have one more opportunity with this collective group. This group has taken a lot of pride into the way we've played down the stretch and played some good football, and we just got to finish it the right way.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to watch. Good luck.
All right, thank you.
Neither the Saints nor the Falcons began the season the way they would have liked, and as a result, they're both out of playoff contention. But they're both playing well as they head into the season finale. The Falcons have won 3 in a row. The Saints have won 4 in a row. Let's talk about a recipe for success for the Saints to extend that win streak to 5 and get a season split with the Falcons. It begins with limiting Bijan Robinson. Robinson ran for 195 yards Monday night against the Rams, and that helped him break the franchise record for scrimmage yards in a single season. Robinson also leads the NFL in that category this season. Falcons' offense is built around him. He's excellent in space, but he's also second in yards after contact as a receiver and 4th as a runner. The Saints have to be aware of him whenever he's on the field, and whenever he touches the ball, they have to tackle well. The second key is protecting Tyler Shough. The Falcons sacked him 5 times in their win in New Orleans earlier this season, and they sacked Matthew Stafford 3 times on Monday night. Atlanta's investment in their pass rush and their emphasis on pressure has paid dividends. They have 53 sacks this season. That's good for 2nd in the NFL. So the Saints will have to establish the run game and maybe use some screens, quick passes, or rollouts to try to slow that pass rush down. And finally, the Saints will have to protect the ball. They turned it over 3 times in the first matchup with the Falcons, and Atlanta had 3 interceptions off Matthew Stafford Monday night in that win against the Rams. Keep in mind, Stafford came into that game with just 5 interceptions on the season, and he's the odds-on favorite to win the NFL's MVP award this season. The Falcons will look to exploit any lapses in ball security from the Saints, so the Saints will have to limit their turnovers to give themselves the best chance to win the season finale against their division rivals.
Thank you, Stan, for the recipe for success. Let's get to today's inactives. For the Saints, currently on the inactive list is Ugo Amadi, Spencer Rattler, Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, Xavier Truss, Brian Brzee, and Nathan Shepard. Coach Kellen Moore also told us that 4 players are headed to injured reserve this week. That would be Mike Davis, Jack Stoll, Mason Tipton, Zaire Mitchell-Payton. And really the one that stands out to us is when you already have an offense that is so depleted. Not seeing Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara today, which I know a lot of Saints fans were hoping maybe Alvin would be back for this one since the last time he played was against the Falcons. What can they do on offense?
Yeah, Tyler Shough. You don't want to put it all on his shoulders, but he's been playing such good football with no matter who lines up around him. I think there's a lot of high expectations that you have your franchise quarterback because he's been able to continue to play that way. There's no doubt about it. The biggest loss, Chris Olave, he's been outstanding the last 4 or 5 games, really taking over games. You never want to see defensive tackles show up on that injury report when you're going against this Atlanta offense. But I think Tyler has been outstanding, and Kellen's done a good job of finding ways to make up for the absence of Alvin Kamara. Audric Estime last week, 100 yards rushing, or nearly 100 yards, was outstanding. He'll be another big part of today's game.
I was going to say, Estime has been, quietly had a great season, a great in-season pickup for the New Orleans Saints. How do you see him having success against the Falcons?
Yeah, it's about staying consistent with the running game, because if you drop back and pass too much against this Atlanta pass rush, it's gonna make for a long day. They can really get after the passer, but if you can keep them honest, if you can be 60-40, we know Kellen likes to throw the ball a little bit more than run the ball, but if you can be 60-40 in that ratio, I think you can lean on this defense and get into third and manageables. Tyler's success rate will go way up today if he's in 3rd and 7 or less versus 3rd and 7 plus, just because on 7 and plus, it takes longer for those down the field routes to develop. And that's when the defense can really get after you. So you still have to be able to run the ball. I know we all want to see Tyler throw the ball 50 times a game. I do too. He's been great, but you have to keep the defense honest. Speaking
of the Saints defensive line, you mentioned some of the guys that they are going to be missing, and Brian Brzee and Nathan Shepard. What does that mean without having them against the Atlanta Falcons on the road? You never want to miss defensive tackles, especially against a running game like this with Atlanta. But I think you make up for it with, like I said before, getting A-gap pressure, bringing linebackers middle. We call it A-gap plug blitzes. So bring those linebackers up the middle and really force Atlanta to go with the football where you want them to go with. But obviously, you don't want to be missing inside pieces against a run game like this. And at this point in the season, you can't say that this doesn't mean something to the Saints. At the end of the year, you're starting to look at, okay, where do we line up in the draft? I think everyone in that locker room is not looking ahead. They are looking at this game. When you think back to Demario Davis in their last win in post-game, he was in the locker room with tears in his eyes saying, we won that game as a team. How fired up are these guys for this rivalry? Yeah, the great thing about this game is if you're an aging player, you never know when your last game is going to be. If you're a young player, you're trying to update your resume and prove to everybody you can make it in this league. And that dynamic is why the NFL is king and why the NFL is so entertaining, because every day is an interview, and now you throw on top of that, we have a rivalry game, and everybody's gonna want to make it a great memory to end the season and springboarding into the next season. There's so much excitement around this Saints team right now, and I think win or lose today, obviously you want to beat the Falcons, but I think big things are in store for 2026. A heated rivalry at that, and just want to get some insight. You said some of these guys that are aging. Now, Demario Davis is aging in number, but certainly not in stats and his production on the field. From a guy who played the position, how hard is it to do what he is doing right now, this deep in his NFL career? It's hard to put into words. I think there used to be this time frame where you see Brady and these quarterbacks are going to play into their 40s just because they're the protected position. They're not getting hit the same way. That's not the case at linebacker. At linebacker, no matter how the game changes, you're going to have to run and hit people, and that wears down on you. So the fact that Has Demario lost a step? Maybe, but what he makes up for it is with his mental IQ, and you see him out there pointing before plays where the ball is going, and you watch the coach's tape, and it's like, this guy knows where the play's going 90% of the time. And for what he's missed in a step because of Father Time, he makes up for his mental and his IQ, his football IQ of the game. And he's been a tremendous leader in the locker room. Him and Cam and these Taysom Hill, all these guys have been a great extension of the coaching staff, and you couldn't ask for more if you're a first-year head coach with these guys. And depending on what some of the players that you mentioned do after this year, I mean, this could be a big game for Taysom Hill as well, someone that they could lean on in the offensive game plan. There's no doubt. I think Taysom has kind of been, we've always said Taysom is that Swiss Army knife, that X factor. So when Alvin goes down, who's gonna pick up the slack? Taysom. A tight end goes down, who's gonna pick up the slack? Taysom. And so Taysom has been the answer to a lot of different equations around here over the last couple of years. And I think Taysom could be in store for another big game today. We saw against the Jets, they got him involved. To me, you can fake a punt every time with Taysom at personal protector. So I think there could be some fun fireworks in store with old number 7 on the field today. One of the things that was interesting listening back to that Falcons-Saints game here in New Orleans, Drew Brees was on the call, and you heard him turn into the old teammate when Taysom was holding the ball and had the pressure in his face. He's like, throw it. Yeah. You could hear him come on over the air. We're going to talk about Drew Brees a little bit more in the post-game show in terms of Hall of Fame, but looking ahead to that, what was it like seeing his name that he might be a first ballot Hall of Famer? It's unbelievable. It means we're all getting older, but those 5 years went by in a heartbeat. But for everything that Drew did for this organization, from the way not only the way he played, the touchdowns he threw, but what he did in this building and behind the scenes, I think those are he made everybody a better player because of his leadership style, because of his accountability. First guy in, last guy out. I know it's a cliche, but just an outstanding player and person and leader. Okay, before we get to the game, game prediction, and also, is Kellen Moore ready to see what this rivalry game is like on the road? I think he's going to be surprised by how many Saints fans are actually in the house and how loud they're going to be.
I was just going to say, I think Kellen's eye-opening moment for this rivalry will be when he looks up and sees all the Saints fans and he hears the Who Dat chant in the stands. I think that's the time when you realize this is a big-time rivalry.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on the pregame show. We will be back for the postgame shows right here on NewOrleansSaints.com. The Saints will kick off on Fox at noon. I'm Brooke Kirchhoff for Scott Shanley. We'll see you after the game.